Saturday. Christmas comes early.
Unbelievable! Welcome to this incredible scene.
Bills.
To the end zone!
Chargers.
It's a touchdown!
An exclusive NFL game.
That's fantastic!
Live in primetime.
Wow!
Only on Peacock.
With a Christmas gift to their fans. They're having some fun now.
Bills versus Chargers. Saturday, 7:30 Eastern. Exclusively on Peacock.
Hello. Welcome to Mavs Party. My name is Kirk Henderson. I am part of the two-man team that runs Pod Maverick, but also part of the team that runs Mavs Moneyball. Thanks so much for joining me tonight on another episode of Mavs Party. For those of you who are new to the show or are interested in participating here in the live YouTube chat, all you got to do is look in the comments for the link. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'll be paying attention, and you can join by clicking into the show. It'll take you to a waiting room, and then you can join me here on stage where we will talk a little bit about the Mavericks versus the Pelicans. Already got one friend waiting. Feel free to join, and we'll talk as long as you guys want to tonight, because I am alarmingly awake, even though I look like hell. Christian, thank you so much for joining us tonight. Welcome to the show. What's going on?
Hey, not too much. How you doing, Kirk?
It's a good-looking sweatshirt. I'm okay. How are you?
Doing pretty good. Can't complain. Gotta watch a relatively stress-free Cowboys and Mavericks game today.
That doesn't happen ever.
Yeah, I know, right? And got some ramen too, so no complaints on my end.
Very good. Well, what'd you like about tonight's game, or what didn't you like?
Well, I mean, they won, which is nice. Like, we're starting to see the wins stack up this season, and can't really complain about how we've been getting them. But it's good to see that we're not getting behind early on in the first half now, so can actually kick the shit out of some teams in the way we're supposed to.
Yeah, it was nice to not have a first quarter. Granted, Zion was like attacking kind of relentlessly, but it was nice to not be too concerned about what was going to happen. The Mavericks didn't get down by like 15 points or anything, which has happened quite a few times in these first quarters.
Yeah, I saw a lot of that earlier in the season, but I couldn't help but feel a little bit worried about this New Orleans game, because I think it was like the third game of the season last year where they just didn't have anybody and still beat us, and we just have not seen too much of the struggle bus against bad teams this year, and it's gonna matter when the season gets a little tougher and the schedule isn't as friendly to us.
I mean, I certainly think that's the case, because the Mavericks, as much as I would like for them to go on an upward trajectory over 82 games, we just know that there's going to be stretches of the season that are harder than others. And when you rack up wins against teams that you're supposed to beat, at the time, and granted, this is like future Kirk talking, it's going to be really frustrating when the Mavericks lose. But, if they're playing at a 60% clip as opposed to an 80% clip, none of us are really going to be complaining compared to how bad they were last year at points.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that, a win against, New Orleans on a Sunday night is worth as much as a win against the Nuggets, right? So it's just going to be really helpful to, be ahead of teams like Phoenix and LA. They'll eventually get their shit together, and we'll need some of this cushion that we're building up.
That's right. I mean, the Mavericks are currently tied in first in the West with the Denver Nuggets at 8-2. And, I don't think any of us expected them to be a top 2 seed. I mean, I saw a bunch of hope for top 4, but even that seemed a little bit ridiculous to me. But I can kind of see it now if they're going to play this way. I mean, out west, I worry about the Nuggets, I worry about the Wolves, and then I worry about the Thunder. and then everyone else is kind of different degrees of threats. Like the Mavericks can't, walk in and let themselves get punched in the mouth too often. But I don't know. I'm pretty pleased with where we are. In fact, I'm probably underscoring it. I'm really excited because I'm so used to teams kind of disappointing and us wondering where they can go. Whereas this team, I think it might be playing a little above themselves. But then I look at a night like tonight where 2 or 3 players didn't play that well, and it just didn't matter.
Yeah, I mean, it still kind of feels like we haven't had a game yet where everybody did, played up to their potential. And I guess you don't really see a whole lot of that in the NBA. But Grant is on a couple game streak where he's just not shooting like he was to start the season, and it's nice that it just really doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
Like we got guys like Josh come in and kind of shaking off some of the bad juju he's had lately, and Kyrie finally looks like a 8-time All-Star or whatever the hell it is. So that's super helpful. I mean, it seems like he and Luka are really starting to click and figure shit out when they're on the court together. And that's good to see because the way they're staggered their minutes, I mean, we're going to get 48 minutes of elite shot making and creating. So we're going to be a tough out for anybody on any night, really. Even the bigger teams that kind of kick the shit out of us on the boards and in the paint.
Yeah, and I still see a fair amount of growth. You mentioned Josh Green finally having a good game. That they've won a lot of these games with different guys being able to have off nights is just so, I guess, relieving is the word I would use, because it felt like, within the last 20 games last year, they beat the 76ers with Luka and Kyrie each scoring 40. But the Sixers, I think they only won that game by like 10.
Yeah.
So it's like tonight, the final score doesn't really do justice because the Mavericks were up by like 30 points for a significant portion of the game.
It was over, before the fourth quarter, really.
Yeah.
It's good to see Luka and Kyrie get a little rest. And, I think we played the Pelicans again here in a couple nights.
So Luka in the French Quarter for 2 days is a little bit alarming.
Yeah,
but
right.
we'll
see how bloated he looks for the next game and get an idea of how good he's been living.
That's right. The beignets. I still remember there's a Saints running back that joined the team this year that like talked all sorts of trash about New Orleans food. And it's like, that's a way to endear yourself to the team. Like, that's a place where it's like, since moving back here to North Texas, I have like tried my hardest to not get fatter, because it's like when you're around good food, it's impossible to not eat it. And so good luck to Luka over the next 2 days.
Right. Yeah. That hopefully he hangs in there, and we might maybe don't need him at 100% for the next game. So
we'll see, man. I cannot believe the Pelicans died like they did tonight. I mean, Josh Bowe pointed out just how injured they were, which is something I knew but hadn't really processed during the game. But it's like Brandon Ingram, was terrible. Zion was okay. They're a better team than they showed tonight for certain. And I suspect on Tuesday night we'll get a much stronger punch.
Yeah, I think they're really going to miss C.J. McCollum. I'm not sure how long he's going to be out, but they don't really have like a good go-to creator on that team. It's a lot of Zion just bull rushing the rim, and
what Brandon Ingram's going to do. Like, he's going to ISO and shoot a 12-footer.
Yeah, he's going to shoot a mid-range shot, and he hits them sometimes. He's a skilled player, but that's a tough way to beat anybody.
That's right.
But I don't know if we have anybody else waiting.
Oh yeah, I got a couple. I just I like talking. But thanks for joining the show, man. Really appreciate you kicking us off.
Yeah, appreciate you having me on.
Mm-hmm. All right, so we got my guy Krishna hanging out down there. I think because I did a pretty poor job. I needed to get better about scheduling these in advance with times attached to them, because I think it gives people an idea of when I'm going to do these shows. So when Krishna comes back, I'll bring him up here and we'll talk for a little bit. But, I find myself kind of wondering just how far this team can go. I mean, I think that they're going to run into the tough stretch that we're talking about, but I'm going to go look at their calendar or their schedule right now just to see if there's anything that strikes fear, because I remember Josh Bowe and I were talking earlier into the season, And at this point, we were wondering sort of what was ahead for them. So they go New Orleans again on Tuesday. They play the Wizards on Wednesday. And I know it's the second night of a back-to-back, but that's one they should win. They play Milwaukee in Milwaukee. And I talked to a Bucks fan friend of mine tonight who actually said to me that he wishes they had Jason Kidd back. That's how much they don't like Adrian Griffin. Keep in mind, they had a fan campaign, Fire Jason Kidd, that went on for the better part of like a season because they were so over Jason Kidd. So to hear that that they want Adrian Griffin out of there, I think the Mavericks could steal one against the Bucks and Damian Lillard, because the Milwaukee, classically is a team that has been pretty good on defense and they just can't defend anyone. Then after that, they play Sacramento, the Lakers, Clippers, and Houston. That's a pretty brutal stretch. So Milwaukee, Sacramento, Los Angeles, Clippers, Houston. Yeah, that's going to be a tough one. But that's fine. That's the kind of the nature of, the NBA these days. And that's why we're talking about getting some of these wins in early, just to see what they can, do over the long haul, to where if you're playing against Los Angeles, let's see here, they play the Lakers first. Well, after kind of a 2-day rest, and then they play the Clippers. Yeah, that's an interesting week. On Thanksgiving week, they play at Los Angeles on Wednesday, but then they don't play again until the Saturday against the Clippers. So, some of these games, they're going to have a pretty good amount of rest built in to whether they win or lose. So we'll see. We'll see what they're able to come up with, but I don't know how high to get on this team, because I really want to enjoy the wins after, how low things were last year. So I'm just going to kind of take it a day at a time. Nico asks in the chat if I miss sleep yet. So I'll be honest, Nico. And guys, feel free to ask me questions down here in the stream. I can answer them that way if you guys don't want to come up on the show and talk with me. So Nico, my first child never slept. Literally never slept. He was the kind of baby that woke himself up every time he startled, and he has been full tilt since coming out of the womb. This guy, the second guy, is very low key to the point that I feel like I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop sometimes. Like he was on the last show with me. He let me hold him and feed him. My previous son just would have screamed for 40 minutes straight. So we'll see about that. Patrick says Denver is the only team that I think the Mavericks will lose against before the game starts. Basically, every other team I like the Mavs' chances, depending on if Luka is tired or moody. The Wolves give me pause just because of how connected their defense looks. I am a big enjoyer of Anthony Edwards, but I think Anthony Edwards is still 2 years away from being the super duper star that he is getting kind of lofted as in current NBA circles, because he's still so young. He didn't really even commit to basketball until it was time for him to, he didn't really commit to basketball until it was pretty clear that was going to be a better path for him professionally than playing football, because he really loved football. Miguel asks, have you noticed how this team doesn't miss Maxi Kleber at all? Was reminded he was on the bench when they had the camera taking a look at that area. That's a tough one. I think they still need another big body, but Kleber in particular, I agree with the sentiment. His whole thing is very challenging because he just doesn't do the things that he was good at. Maxi in particular, what I mean is that he used to be very good at defending the rim and also could defend on drives while being willing to take and hit threes. And as we've seen this year, he's not willing to shoot, and he doesn't look that good on defense. So what is he bringing to the team? I don't want to kick the guy when he's down because he's hurt right now with the dislocated toe. The Mavericks said he's going to be out at least 2 more weeks, but they need another body, and he's not it. And I don't want to say that they need to send him packing, but if the Mavericks are able to move him and find something that they're happy with, then I think it's up to Dallas to really consider that, once he's I'm pretty sure he's trade eligible now, but I'm not entirely sure about that. Dang it, Krishna came back. I saw him at his computer and then he left again. So we'll see how long he's away here. See if there's anybody else in tonight's game that I really thought was worth hitting on. If otherwise, this might be one of the shorter shows we've done, despite a fair number of people down there in the stream. If you want to come up and talk with me, got to take you on fire off. Go ahead and click the link, which I will share again, but it is pasted into the pinned in the comments section. Let me see here. What all do we got? Yeah, I'm actually getting his legs under him would help a little bit, but I'm not sure. It's just, between hamstring issues, he tore his hamstring last year, between back issues, between this foot problem, you just feel for the guy. Harold asks in the chat, who can't the Mavericks afford to lose for a 2-week stretch? Lively or Kyrie? Ooh, I like this question because I think that Kyrie is sort of the straw that stirs the drink offensively. I think Lively just being an enormous man, even if they're not rebounding better, he just provides that much more of a deterrent that I want to see it. All right, my guy Brian has joined down there. I'm going to bring Brian up here. Brian, what's going on, man?
My man, enjoying another Mavericks win. That's all.
That's right.
Same as always.
This is wild. And this was probably for me, I enjoyed this more than the Clippers game because I liked seeing Kyrie get going early. That was a lot of fun. I like seeing his 3-ball fall because that had been a bit of an issue up until now.
Yeah, and he was killing from 3 in the Clippers game, and he was even better right from the beginning in this game. Like in this game, not only was he like to start off in the first quarter, he was hitting threes, he was getting into the lane whenever he wanted. He actually drew a couple foul calls, which I was like, oh, they're giving him fouls today. So yeah, this is going to be a really, really good performance. And yeah, he balled out. I got no complaints about Kyrie. The shot was always going to come around.
Yeah. I just didn't know I didn't know if it was going to be a thing where he sort of slowly worked his way up and then we're looking at his numbers and they look kind of historically normal, or if he was going to have like a 2 or 3 game stretch like now where he's shooting 60% from the field or something crazy and it just helps even out his numbers pretty quickly. I prefer this because, he's still, what did he shoot? He shot 13 of 20 tonight, and I saw 2 that just rolled in and out. Like he was just this close to being perfect for the game.
Right. No, he was incredible, and I think that his season numbers just with these 2 games, he's already back to like 49, 40, 90, just about. So it took literally 2 games. So that was funny. I don't know. I just really enjoyed this game because one, I didn't have to watch Maxey go and flounder around at the 5 still. That was nice. Kid didn't have that option to do that. Dwight was really, really physical.
Yeah.
Tonight.
Productively.
He's usually
not
pretty
just
good.
Like sometimes he's like a pinball where he's just like bopping around
off
and
of people.
doing, yeah. And I thought he took blows in a way that was really productive for what the Mavericks needed. He didn't foul a ton. I like that.
Yeah, no, Dwight was really, really good. He's held down his backup role. I do still think that we need to go and get somebody who is either going to be huge on the board or also be a rim deterrent. So when Lively has a sit or if he's out for a game, we're not putting so much on Dwight's shoulders because we know that Maxey just can't really hack it as a small ball 5 anymore as he currently is. And Holmes, he tries, bless his heart, but defensively he will give you back everything he could possibly give you on offense. So
yeah,
it kind of is what it is.
Yeah, but that they're still stealing. I mean, it was interesting to see Omax play a little bit. Garbage time, obviously, and then he played last night in the G League, and those highlights were kind of fun to watch. I wouldn't really look at the box score because he couldn't hit anything to start the game. But, the Mavericks, if he ever plays significant minutes with the Mavericks this year, he's not going to be called on to score anyhow. He's going to be called on to be a large person, play some defense, grab some boards. And I sort of wonder, obviously we're 10 games in the season, 1/8 of the way into the season. If the Mavericks are able to do what they did with Jaden Hardy, because if I'm remembering correctly, within 10 games into last year, everyone was kind of losing their minds wondering why Jaden Hardy wasn't playing. Right. And so the G League season finally starting, if they're going to shuffle Omax up and down repeatedly, and I really think they do, then maybe that will be for the good because it worked out well for Hardy.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as I was watching it because I actually watched the G League game the other night.
What'd you think?
I thought
I didn't watch it, for full disclosure.
I found it odd the new free throw rule. You shoot and you take one free throw and it's worth the number of points for the shot you got fouled on, whether it's 2 or 3. I thought that was kind of fun, but it helped the game go by faster, so that was cool. But as far as like just Omax and how he played, that was it Dexter Dennis, that other wing that we got down there.
Yeah, the guy from Texas A&M.
That motherfucker can shoot, man.
Really?
That guy can shoot for real. Like, yeah, he was the best spot up shooter in that game. He was pretty good. I think he hit a couple threes off of Omax assists. And so, like, we got to see Omax have the ball in his hands a little bit more. They gave him room to create. He couldn't really create anything, God bless his heart. But he had a couple nice drives where he took a bump and got fouled, or took a bump and made an and one. He also, which is more what caught my attention, his 3-point shot off the catch, it started to look a little more comfortable for him. Because the first one, he damn near airballed. And then I think he had an airball. And I think his first make, it bounced off the front of the rim, backboard, front of the rim again, and then rolled in. And that's how he started hitting. So I was like, okay, sure. I guess he just needs to see it go down, because once he hit that, then he had a couple more that were pretty decent makes, like maybe one switch the entire night. But he hit 3 or 4 threes, and I was like, okay, if this is how the game is going to go, just go defend their best player and then just make you catch and shoot threes. And okay, I'm fine with that. Those are the game reps that he needs anyway. So
it's pretty good, man. It's pretty good. Yeah, if you're ever bored enough and feel like driving way the hell out to Frisco, they're fun games to go to.
Oh yeah, definitely. Especially if I know he's going to be down there playing.
Yeah.
Like Jelly Walker, he's definitely fun to watch when he's got the ball in his hands. Maybe not when you're trying to win the game,
Right?
but he's exciting to watch. Mike Miles is still down there. AJ, Dennis, Tajay Moore, so they have Texas Legends have a team that's pretty interesting to watch. I guess as long as there's also like an NBA prospect down there on assignment. But yeah, if you've got nothing better to do,
You can get
it's a waste of time.
Yeah, I mean the Frisco of it all is what's annoying for most people in the Dallas
Yeah.
area. But like they sometimes sell tickets for like $7 to $10, and you can be like 8 or 9 rows away from the court. The problem is, like, once you get on their marketing list, they will hit you up like it's campaign season, where you're just getting, like, if I don't hear from you now, the Texas Legends are gonna die. And it's like, okay, calm down. But I've gone to 2 or 3, and I hope to do so again this year. But Brian, what else you got for us? I appreciate you hopping on. You're saving me while I was kind of drowning by myself up here on stage.
No, for sure. I didn't hear the first notification that you guys had even started, because I knew you were waiting to put your kid down. So as soon as I saw, I jumped in and I realized, oh, okay, well, there aren't that many people.
You're the man.
Hey, I try, but this is a fun game. I was shocked that Jordan Hawkins kid did not cook us, and he got some good open looks.
Good looks. Yep.
And I was just like, we are skating, because if he gets these same looks in the next game, he's hitting at least half of them. Mm-hmm. But we were so good offensively, it didn't really matter. Everybody just about had a good game. Grant didn't really score, but he still played really well. He was still, good on defense and good on the boards. I will say, I'm starting to get annoyed at this whistle that Lively is getting, because, boy, he is getting some shitty foul calls. But rookie center, and it's half the time Zion driving at him, right? So it's like, all right, those calls he's just going to have to eat.
There's a foul somewhere every time Zion drives. It's a matter of whether they call it or not.
Yeah. So I was like, you know what? I'll just take that. But everybody played really well. I was really, really excited about this win. It was fun to watch, because after, I'd say, like, 3 minutes into the third, I was like, yeah, this game is pretty much over. I was just counting down. Okay, so when are we going to get Omax minutes now at that point? And Eventually, we got him. We got our garbage time minutes. Jaden went in, hit a few threes. Seth Curry, I think, even got in the game at one point. So
He did. It's a nice outing. You get a lot of rest. You play these guys again on Tuesday, and hopefully you beat them again.
hopefully, we'll be able to have our best guys and not play the fourth again too.
Oh, Brian,
Nice.
we'll talk soon. Thanks so much for hanging out with us as always.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
All right, coming up next is Krishna, my man who was away. He was at his computer, then he was away. Now he's back again. What's going on?
Kirk, how are you?
I'm good.
Sorry about that.
Oh no, it's good. This is good because these shows are always fun. I think they tend to pick up more a little bit after football's totally gone because people just like you join our normal podcast. We have 200-300 people in there some nights, and then we're in here on these we only get about 100. I think folks are still a little reluctant to come up here and just hang out and chat, which I get. I mean, it's a little weird being on these things, but it's fun once you start it, particularly after all of us who had worked from home during any sort of pandemic stuff where it's just like, this is like a work Zoom call and then you're talking about fun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's very different. Obviously, I think if you're used to the Spotify stuff, if people are here from that, but I'm going to be honest, most people are not going to care what you look like or what you talk about. You're going to be more worried about yourself than other people are about you. Like most people here, we're all Mavericks fans. We just want to talk about the team. And like you've talked about so much, this is just a great outlet to speak about them. And I'm very thankful to have it. And I like hearing a lot of other people's opinions. You can always read them. And obviously Twitter has, people, but it's a controlled way. And this is always fun. And it's interesting. I hear a lot of things that I think about and I take with me into the season, and it's fun. It's fun. Really, it's fun. And so was this game, which I think was, I don't know. I was a little shocked how fun this game was.
I was too. I was expecting a slog.
I was too, because the Pelicans, it's weird. So many teams that were expected to be good have not really shown out. And the Pelicans are kind of one of those teams. And especially when I saw their injury list, I was concerned because I keep going back to last year. But last year, so many times we played teams with injuries and we just played slog games that were horrific to watch, boring, and just grueling, especially when we lost them. And so the fact that this Pelicans team was injured and you took advantage of that and you played a pretty comfortable game, I think is great. And there's not really much to complain. I think it's interesting that we've kind of gone through so many games, and every game we've got one person who's not necessarily hitting, but it doesn't feel like that's killing us. Whereas not even just last year, but the year before, even in 2022, when it felt like one guy was not making their shots, it felt like this team was not going to function at all. Like this team was not going to get to 100 points, much less 120 points. And, I'll be honest, before the Kyrie trade, my whole philosophy for this team was this team needs to have better depth pieces.
Mm-hmm.
It's why initially I was against the Kyrie trade, not because of just Kyrie, but I didn't think this team had depth pieces anyways. And you were going to trade some depth pieces for a lack of depth. And what I think this offseason has shown is there is now some depth on this team. Obviously the Chicago game, we go back to that, but now you're seeing the stars, step up, but you're still seeing other guys come along for the ride. Like, yes, there's not a ton of, you're not getting another 20-point per game scorer, but you're getting guys adding 7 and 7 and then 10 and then 17. And it's like, okay, you don't feel like when Luka or Kyrie go to the bench that no one is going to make shots, that people are going to make shots. They're going to be confident, and that there's contribution on every side. And you and Josh pointed it out. I think almost like 7 players or something had at least 2 assists. And part of that was, I was listening to some of the Pelicans broadcast from the highlights, and they were just moving the ball a lot more. And a lot of the notions about Luka and this offense, I think were far more indicative of the roster building than Luka's play himself, right? Now you have guys who they're feeling like we get mad at Josh for making the pass, and I think rightfully so oftentimes. But tonight there was a few times where a guy would get the ball and just immediately move it, and it would be an open 3 and would just go in, and that felt really good to see. Honestly, it's something I don't think we've seen for a while.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know unless you have something else to add, but
no, I mean it's I'm waiting sort of for the other shoe to drop. But what's been interesting is that they keep scoring 120 points, where I don't think we've had a game where the entire team feels lights out.
Yes. I felt that too. That too.
Tonight they shot the Mavericks. The Mavericks shot 37% from three. There's going to be a game where the team shoots like 48%. And when you shoot 48%, when you shoot 55 times from three, you're going to score a bajillion points.
I mean, I forget who it was, but someone tweeted out the Pelicans made 43% of their threes.
Yep.
And they still got blown out. Like they still lost by 12. And even that 12, like you talked about, that 12-point score
47% of their threes. Yeah.
Yeah, and that was, that was like that was I can't believe I forgot what the word is, but that scoreline flattered them. That was the word. That flattered them really. And the fact that, like you said, this team has just not been clicking. And I think to me that's far more, it's 50-50, right? It gives me worry that is this team going to go through a situation where we just go, wow, nothing is working? Or is there going to be a situation where I feel more likely that everything is just clicking? And I think it's positive, at least, that this team is now getting wins when it doesn't feel like everything is cohesive, where it felt like if everything wasn't cohesive, you're not getting wins. And I feel like that's what all good teams do. Like I can't think of any of the teams that have won championships in the past where it felt like everything was going well for them the entire season.
Yep.
Like even the Nuggets last year, and Michael Porter Jr. was not great for them throughout large stretches of the season. And, obviously a part of that is coming off the injury. The same thing with Jamal Murray. And I think about the Warriors the season beforehand, so much was made of the Warriors just lack of, off the bench scoring. And they kind of just fixed that in the playoffs. I don't think the Mavericks have anything glaring like that. And again, I'm not saying this means the Mavericks are championship contenders, like for sure, because we have still 70 games in the season left to go. But it feels positive that you feel like there's room to grow for this team. And that's obviously, I think a lot of it now is getting into like everyone wants to talk about trades and stuff. I feel like that's still a little early just because, you talked about it, like Omax going to the G League. I think it's good for him, like just to get minutes. And, I was thinking about this and I put it out in the chat earlier on your podcast, but it reminds me a little bit, not to say he's these players, but it reminds me of Kawhi and OG in the sense of how they had to develop their offensive game. And I think Omax is different where when he plays offense, he plays like Josh almost, where it feels like he just wants to get to the basket really fast and do the quickest thing possible. And to him, I think it's almost, he just needs to slow down the game for himself. And I think part of that is just going to come with time and experience and playing at this level, because like you've pointed out, he's just physically bigger and stronger than most of these guys. And I think he's got the work ethic and the brain to figure that out. And I think it was also positive, it doesn't seem like this has affected him, right? Like I was worried about that last year with Hardy too, but it feels like both of those guys took any sort of, perceived, what would have been perceived as setbacks as something like to grow from and improve from. And even if the numbers I don't think look great for Omax, I feel like he's going to improve, whether it's this season or not, because I think developing as a wing, it always takes, I think, a lot longer than guards in some ways. I think he will. And it's why I'm not super like go all in yet, because it's always easy to forget. Like Luka is 24, it's a weird thing because for so long, this roster has been so much older than Luka. It's weird to think that, you don't have to go all in. But yeah, I think it's a lot more positives. It's going to be weird facing the Pelicans again for the in-season tournament.
But this one didn't count towards the in-season tournament, and Tuesdays does. Sure, or not, whatever.
Which is so weird. And then also the Mavericks, like I was looking at this, they're the only team in the group to play 2 games in the tournament. So then by Tuesday, we'll have played 3, and then no one else will have played like more than 2, which is like so weird. Because I was looking at it and I was like, wait a minute, how do the Mavericks have a combined 258 points and the Nuggets are at 121? And then I realized, the Nuggets have 1 game played.
That's right.
It'll be interesting. But I think what it also does is it just gives these guys rest. And ultimately, I'm just happy. This was a fun game to watch. I ended up watching some of the Pelicans broadcast. And when we were just raining threes in the third quarter, man, they were so down every single time. Like Kyrie hit that 3 that was just ridiculous, where it just bounced in and out like 3 times, I felt like. And it went in and they were just like, and it goes in just like that. It's what it felt like. So I mean, I'm glad that we're on this side of it, at least for this part of the season. Hopefully it keeps getting better.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Awesome, Kirk. You take care.
All right, talk soon. All right. Okay, guys, great show, short show. We're going to be back again on Tuesday. Thanks so much for hanging out with me. Tell your friends, tell your other Mavs fans in your lives, subscribe to Pod Maverick. I think we got pushed over 2K tonight because Panda Hank was out there hanging out with us. As always, I appreciate you. We'll talk soon. Everybody have a good week and go Mavs.